Hey, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me for our Wednesday AM Mindful Storyteller Circle. My name is Halana Black. I'm the facilitator of our group where we use journal writing to help us to mine our lives for stories that can help us to write other things like essays or social media posts or books or anything else that you would like to be able to write for yourself. As always, I like to start off with a very short meditation just to help us to ground ourselves in our setting. Meditation is important for at least for me before we start writing because I feel like it helps us to settle into our space so that we can focus on the task at hand, to sort of leave behind whatever it is that we were thinking about before, and we can move forward um, feeling good about what we're doing. I usually like to just turn the video off for the meditation portion. And what I'd like to do is to ask you to sit up wherever you are in your space, in your seat, if you can put your feet flat on the floor. You can also just sort of sit cross-legged if that works for you. And if you can just sort of lengthen your spine a bit so that you're alert, but not necessarily in any sort of pain or discomfort. Put your shoulders back. You can close your eyes if you'd like, or you can lower your gaze if that feels more comfortable. And just take a moment to catch up with your breath. Just breathing on your own naturally. If you can take a moment to put your hand over your heart and find your heartbeat. And let your natural breathing rhythm catch up with your heart rate. One of the things I believe is really important is for us to remember that we are nature. We are part of nature. We are nature. And if we put our hand over our heart, that's a way of reminding us of how much a part of nature we really are. And it's good for us to be able to fall into sync with the natural movement of our own bodies. So sync your breath with your own heart rate. And just sit there for a minute. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And turn your video on if you care to share your video today. All right, so today we're continuing with our theme of food for the month of September. And today we're talking about market mysteries. Oh, goodness. Today we're talking about market mysteries. So anywhere, remembering any trips that we've made to markets. Could be anywhere. It could be your local market that you've been to. Maybe it was a shopping trip that you did when you were younger. Maybe it's in a place where you live now, no matter where it is. But just to be able to get us writing. Now here comes Miss Chef Amira. I know she's got plenty to talk to us about food. Well, we're talking about market mysteries. So anything that you can sort of remember about food trips, any place where you made, good morning, Chef Amira, I see you. Anything that you can remember about food trips. So this can be like your outdoor markets that you often go to, or farmers market in the States or wherever, favorite grocery store, or even a not so favorite place that you've been to. Something that was odd, something that was interesting. So the first thing we're going to talk about is sort of just learning how to set the scene, learning how to use descriptive detail to be able to help us sort of bring people into places that you visited. So it could be anything about the layout of the place, the stalls, the people, the overall atmosphere. And as an example, I have an example of each of the ones that, or at least for two of them. This one is from Zora Neale Hurston's Their Eyes Were Watching God. She has a market scene from a market in, I believe this one was in Eatonville, Florida. That's where most of the book takes place. She says, the market was full of people by this time. A big shipment of groceries had come in at 6, and the men were hustling it over to the barn. Counters were piled high with goods. The smell of fresh bread and sweet cakes mixed with the heady scent of spices and pickles. Fish on ice shone like silver dollars. Limes were like small, glistening green planets, and ripe bananas were golden fans of fruit. Women sorted through heaps of bright fabrics, lifting and dropping them with exclamations of delight and bargaining. The butcher's knife echoed in the chambers of a market stall, and vegetable sellers really extolled their produce. So that's Zora Neale Hurston from Their Eyes Were Watching God, where she gives a vivid detail of what she saw to sort of set the scene of a particular market that she was in at the time. So if you want to be able to, we can take a few minutes to be able to sit down and write a market memory or a market memory for ourselves. Good morning, Christine. Happy to have you.
Good morning, ladies. Hi.
Good morning. We're just starting to write down setting the scene for markets that we remember.
Yes.
It could be a market from where you live, or a market where you've traveled somewhere. It doesn't really matter. But just getting into the practice of getting into writing details of what it is that you remember, what you smell, what you see, what you taste, what you hear, anything like that.
Hey.
So I am going to I'll put 10 minutes on the clock.
All right.
What's the prompt again, Helena?
What'd you say?
What's the prompt again?
To be able to write about a market that to be able to set the scene of the market. So it could be, a grocery store, it could be a market that you've been to, here in Mexico or anywhere that you want to be able to set the scene to sort of bring us into what it is that you remember seeing. We're learning how to be able to write this to write descriptive memories.
Okay, thank you.
So anything about the layout, the stalls, the people, or just the overall atmosphere, what do you remember?
Okay, thanks.
Mhm. Okay, so whenever you are ready, we are setting the scene from our favorite market memories. What did you hear? What did you taste? What did you smell? What was your experience? You can read what you have, or you can choose to, you can read what you have, or you can just sort of give a brief explanation of what it is that you wrote down.
I'd like to read.
Yes, Miss Carolyn.
Mhm. The day was sunny, and my anticipation was electric as I watched my mother gather up her pocketbook and grab the shopping cart so that we could go to the market. They were located on Belmont Avenue and Pitkin Avenue in Brooklyn. I was always intrigued by the hawking Jewish merchants as they brought attention to their wares: collard greens, turnip greens, mustard greens. And then the poultry house. It stank, but promises of a crispy chicken breast made the stench palatable. It was in stark contrast to an intoxicating adult memory of consuming a baked chicken stuffed with oregano in Milan, Italy. My biggest regret was that I had to share.
I love that. And I love going to the chicken house. Was this in New York?
Yes, in Bed-Stuy.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Back when the meat and all that other stuff had different places.
Yes.
That was beautiful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
This is when you said that you were with your mom, so this is when you were a child?
Yes, that was when I was a child.
Mhm. I love it. Thank you. Would anyone else like to share what they wrote?
I'll share.
Okay.
Let's see. Aunt Ann and Mommy loaded us all in the car, headed for the monthly haul from the farmers market off the 101 freeway in San Francisco. It was outdoors and stretched from one underpass to another. We went to get greens mostly, but spent most of the day smelling the red snapper, trout, shrimp, while seeing the huge crabs, lobsters, and octopus. Chinese men and women behind the tall stalls that seemed to look down at my younger sisters and cousins. We slowly took in the colors of the fish: meat, vegetables, bread, and grains appeared about 2 hours into our trip. So that was that, yeah, that's how far I got.
Okay.
But
And where was this? Where was this at?
this was in San Francisco.
Oh, in San Francisco. Cool.
Mhm.
So you
Yeah.
had access to all that nice fresh fish.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it was amazing. But we only said we're going to get our greens. It was always the same story. We're going to get the greens, but we spent all day there. And we walked from one end to the other end, which took a while because we were all looking for other stuff, and they would end up getting, of course, more than just greens.
Yeah.
And they'd get ideas from seeing the food, all the food. Girl, let me get some of this catfish. Oh, I think I'm gonna make some gumbo. They would go and so they between the two of them, they come up with a menu for, the rest of the next 2 weeks.
Wow.
And my aunt had the bigger car. So we got loaded up and, in that car, and I was the oldest, and so I could help carry stuff and watch my sisters and my cousin. So I was doing double duty while they were out shopping. That's the real story. Yeah, those
Do
are good
people
times.
still go shopping for greens like that anymore? I never hear people get up and say, I'm gonna go out and get, and go and get my greens. I remember with my great grandmother, she was always going out to get greens.
Mhm.
I do.
I do.
Oh yeah, I do. But
Yeah.
I never hear anybody saying that, they want to go out and like specifically going out to be able to go and get greens. Because I
Yeah.
remember my mom, when she did the cooking, she would always get the frozen stuff.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Like she would
Okay.
get frozen stuff. So this was when,
Mm.
stuff was changing in neighborhoods where
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
couldn't really, well, I won't say you couldn't get anything fresh, but
Mhm.
convenience was more important.
Yeah.
And she didn't really know what to do with the fresh stuff anyway.
But my mother is 85. I forget sometime how old she really is. I think she's 85, 85 or 86 now. But she still shops for, the greens, and she said depending on what stores she has access, she'll frown at somebody who says, "Oh, I'll take you to, Kroger."
Mhm.
She's down in Atlanta right now. I'll take you to Kroger. Oh no, they don't have good greens. They're dirty. They're nasty. They really picked up. She knows in her mind, where the good ones are. She said, but if you can take me over and that's like way across town, inconvenient for somebody, but they do. And she said, yeah, she took me to and it's usually a small store that's Black owned, coming from the farm, and they're good greens. It's not a chain.
Yeah.
Yeah. She says, because those other ones I have to take too long washing. And she prides herself on washing her greens like squeaky clean. So yeah, it's a whole thing. And I have that in my head. So I'm here in Portugal, and they actually have some serious good greens here. Mhm.
I miss that here in Mexico. You can, it's difficult to be able to get good, at least where I am here in Mexico. They have greens, but they're all like wilted over, and you see that you can get them, you can find them when they're good, and then when they're not, you gotta wait a few more weeks until they get them another shipment, and maybe you'll be able to get it fresh. But yeah, being picky about where you get the greens from, I think is really that's something that I remember my grandmother and great grandmother doing. And being able to wash the greens was an art. Like my great grandmother had a big tub in the basement, a big sink with a deep tub in the bottom, and she would put salt in the water, and she said, you got to let the greens soak. The greens need to soak, and they would let them soak for for a few hours.
Yeah.
You will watch the bugs come up to the top.
Yes, yes. My brother said, come here, look at it, look at this. They got snails in here. There's some nasty greens. They come here and see all this dirt in here. And I was the one, of course, the oldest, who had my sisters to this day. They're like, can you tell me how to do I'm like, Y'all, she didn't call you guys to see all this stuff and then be in the kitchen watching. So, yeah, all those bugs, all the dirt, all everything. And she would pick everything that she didn't want on them. Yeah, yeah. It was
And
good.
it's funny now to be able to watch like in other cultures that use greens, like I remember in Vietnam, and they'll be outside of their apartment or their home with big tubs of just plain water that they would put out, and they would just have tubs and tubs of their greens and herbs because they eat a lot of fresh greens and herbs with their food in Vietnam. So just big tubs of greens and herbs that they would just be washing out on the side of the road. I don't know if they would, put salt and let it sit for hours, but they would go through a few washings of it, 3 or 4 washings, just to be able to make sure that everything was properly cleaned. So,
Because we don't
I think
want
that's something.
mystery meat. We don't want mystery meat.
No mystery. I didn't eat the mystery. That's why I ate more vegetarian stuff while I was in Asia. I really didn't go to Asian to regular Asian food stores. I would usually eat at vegetarian places if they were Asian, because yeah, they would just be throwing whatever on the plate. God bless them. Would anyone else like to share what they wrote?
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
The energy was buzzing, electric even. People are everywhere walking through, browsing, or setting up their goods. The sun's shining bright. It's a Mexican Caribbean Sunday morning, after all. Along with the buzz of movement came the sounds, all sorts of sounds. The 2 blind men with their wooden instruments, one holding on to the other as they moved slowly through the crowd, both hands out, ready for any passerby willing to contribute to their meal for the day. The mariachi music blasting from the speakers of the vendors, every other one playing a different song from the This Is What We Play in Mexico handbook. The drink vendor calling out to each person passing by, agua de coco, a kind offer to quench your thirst. This is what it means to be at the Sunday market in Playa.
That's awesome.
Nice.
That's cool.
I like the addition of the music,
Yes.
so we
Thank
can
you.
sort of see.
The object of this game is to guess.
But it was nice. It's nice to be able to
Which
hear
game? Who is that?
the addition of the music is nice here. I actually enjoy listening. It's not, it's not a whole mariachi band, but when you go to a grocery store or really anytime you go outside here in Mexico, it's nice to be able to sort of get into what other people are listening to. It lets you know that you are someplace else. So I'm learning to enjoy Mexican music.
I still don't.
I'm learning how to enjoy it. It's fun. It's fun, and it's very like I feel like it's formal. Like Mexican music is very formal as opposed to others which are at least from what I can hear. I'm not a Latin music professional, so this is what I'm getting from my experience here so far. Mexican music seems to be very formal, and then like other countries where it's more more of a mix of African sounds, it's more of a like a party sort of an
Yeah.
atmosphere. That's
You
my
Yeah,
interpretation
Mexican
of it
music
right
seems real classical, like it
now.
harkens back to,
Mhm.
it's not and I think it's interesting that younger Mexican, children or teenagers, they that's, they appreciate it too. They continue to appreciate that music. Now I know they appreciate probably some, more popular stuff,
Yeah.
but this music is so embedded in the culture that everyone listens to it, and it just seems like it'll never go away.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. I like acoustic guitar. I really do. So I appreciate it. It is formal. It's like you kind of stand at attention when you listen to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I enjoy Mexico. Mexico is a nice place to be. Would anyone else like to share what they wrote? If not, we can go on to the next question. The next question, let's see. So the next question is around recipes. If you think about, this is actually a multi-pronged question. So I wanted you to think about a very simple recipe or a very simple dish that you learned from anything that you may have bought from a market, whether you were a kid or, from your current life or wherever. And just start to use descriptive terminology to start to talk about the step, like super simple. We're not talking about making, a whole roast that has 25 steps to it, but something very basic. Use descriptive language and personal anecdotes to talk about it. So my questions for you that you can sort of use to sort of talk about what it is that you want to write. Share a simple recipe as taught to you by a loved one. Were there any unique tips or special ways of doing things? Were there any special ingredients or utensils involved? Was there a life lesson that you can apply here? And how did this interaction make you feel then and now? I'll put all of that in, I'll put all of that in the chat. So again, I'll read it. Share a simple recipe as taught to you by a loved one. Were there any unique tips or special ways of doing things? Were there any special ingredients or utensils involved? Was there a life lesson you can apply here? How did this interaction make you feel then and now? I'll put the prompt in the chat for you all to see it if you need to refer back to it. Okay. So if anyone is ready to share what you wrote, I'll be happy to hear what you have. A simple recipe from your childhood or your current life.
Okay, I'll share.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, a simple recipe for would have been, and this is something my grandmother made when we were young. It's
Mhm.
something called coconut cakes. I don't know if you have it in the States, but in the Bahamas, it's very popular. And it's made
Mhm.
with sugar, grated coconuts, spice, and a little water. And that's something she would make on a Saturday, at least every other Saturday when we were younger. And you make it by grating the coconut.
Mhm.
You put it in a pot on the fire with the sugar, whatever spice, nutmeg, cinnamon, and a little water, and you let it boil or you let it simmer or what I don't know, steam. And then when it is boiled right down, you form it into little cakes, just little
Mhm.
tiny cakes, and they harden. And that was a treat for us as children. But one of the not one, but the life lesson I learned from that was sometimes it sometimes it takes things being hard because you had to take the coconut out of the shell. We had to take them out with a butter knife, take the coconut pieces out. We had to grate the coconut pieces, which meant that a lot of times our knuckles
Mhm.
were scarred from grating it, and then waiting for it to steam in that heat. And that's how life is sometimes to me. That sometimes it takes the little nicks and scars to get something sweet, to get something better or to benefit. Sometimes life is like that. You have to go through, different things in life, and that's something. Making those coconut cakes, and every time we would say, "No, we're not going to do it again," because you don't want your fingers getting scraped up and the hard work of doing it, but when the promise of what it was going to be. And so, of course, whenever that time came again, we did do it. But that little simple recipe was really a life lesson to me that sometimes you have to go through some things in order to get something on the other end. And so that's my memory.
I love that. And I love fresh coconut, but it was out of the little brown coconuts, right? To be able to
Yes,
get the coconut meat
out.
out
Yes,
of that. That's
right.
hard work.
Yeah, that's how. Yes, it is. It's very hard work.
I love that. And I do like the coconut cakes. I love how there's at least in New York City, and in some places where I grew up in New Jersey, but the Caribbean people they have their favorite spaces for where they would get their sweets from. The
Yeah.
one store is always better than the other, and she doesn't know what she's doing with her cakes, and so this people go to this store over here
Yes, yes.
across the street. So everybody had their preference for where it is that they would like to go, usually based on what country they were from.
Yes, definitely. Still, I think it's still the same.
Mhm. But you're right, that is a lot of work to sit and grate all those coconuts just to be able to sit. And you said you use a butter knife to be able to get it out of the
Yeah,
shell?
because we were children. Yeah, they would give us a butter knife to use to try and get the pieces out of the shell. And when
Mhm.
coconut is hard, that is very difficult to
It
to maneuver that. Yeah, so it was a lot of work.
it is. I remember my mom used to bake, she liked baking sometimes, like during a special occasion or something. So we would make carrot cakes. And so it was always my job to have to sit and grate the carrots.
Mhm.
I lived in New Jersey, so there wasn't nobody was grating coconuts. But to be able to grate the carrots, and you did get your fingers all nicked up trying to grate the carrots, and then your fingers turn all orange from trying to grate it. But you're right. Once the job is actually done, you figure out that it was actually worth all that work and effort that you had to put in order for it to be able to work. Thank you, Christine. I love that memory. Would anyone else like to share?
Yes.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
speaking about that, preparing string beans and peeling potatoes. Oh my God. Now, it's nothing. I said, okay, see, she prepared you. But oh my God, I love potatoes and I love string beans, but I hated picking off the ends. It was just so tedious. And then she'd pay attention to how thick the peel was when you were peeling, you cutting off too much. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. So I'll read to you. I don't know, it seems like chicken keeps popping up in my head this morning. So that's what this is about. My mother was a hard worker. I recognized this and wanted to make her feel loved. So I decided to surprise her one day and prepare the chicken she had thawing in the refrigerator. I took out her favorite cooking bowls, the white ones with the blue floral motif now sitting in my cabinet, washed the chicken, and sprinkled it with black pepper and salt. Then I made sure the Crisco was nice and hot and placed the chicken in the pan. I was confused. The chicken wasn't turning brown. I heard my mother put her key in the door and enter our home. She came into the kitchen, a space I had grown to love. It had 2 windows that revealed a lush garden that she had cultivated. Ma, I put the chicken in the pan, but it won't brown. My mother stared at the pan and then collapsed in laughter. I was curious as to what had brought out this reaction. She said, "You didn't use flour." She washed her hands, got out a piece of wax paper and put a mound of flour in the middle. Then she carefully removed each drumstick, floured it, and put it back in the grease. It was crunchy to perfection. The life lesson was to always seek mentorship, ask questions, and value the knowledge that others share.
I love that. So your mom was the one who had to teach you how to make the fried chicken.
Yes. And now I can make a mean piece of fried chicken.
That's sort of like a rite of passage. My mother did teach me how to properly fry the chicken. Put in the flour. She would put it in the extra used plastic bags from the grocery store.
Yes.
And put all the seasoning, and then you got to make sure you got to taste the flour to make sure it's properly seasoned. Yeah, so that was a lot of fun.
Yes.
Learning how to be able to make fried chicken.
My daughter and grandchildren used to fight over the who was going to get the last piece of chicken cutlet. I would make it with the gravy, and I would get report. Yeah, we were competing for that last piece. Yeah. So my mom done good.
Yes, she did. We can do one more if anyone else wants to share. Well, mine really quickly. For mine, I wrote, my sister and I gathered in the kitchen the night before school. We had to make our own lunch. There was no money for buying what the school prepared for us in advance. So when we got to the kitchen, everything was set up in an assembly line: mayo, mustard, tomatoes, bread, unwashed grapes, and bologna slices with red tape around the edges. My mom taught us how to pull out the bread, lather each piece in mayo and mustard, pull the sticky red tape off each piece of greasy bologna, and layer each slice one on top of another. So basically she had to, one thing that I think my parents did very well with my sister and I was teaching us structure and how to be able to take care of ourselves at a very, very young age. So when I was probably 6 or 7 and my sister was about 5 at the time, we were responsible for watching each other. And we would go downstairs into the kitchen to make sure that our lunch was made. You know, and they did this with everything. They did this with like learning how to do laundry or learning how to iron clothes. Like we had to be together to sort of check each other to make sure that we don't burn the house down. But we had to learn these basic skills to be able to have structure in our lives. That was their idea of good. Like if they taught us structure, then they were doing their thing as a parents. And I actually really appreciate that they did, because as I got older, like when I went to college, the fact that people didn't know how to make their own sandwiches, they didn't know how to wash their own clothes. I was like, what? I've been doing this since I was 5 years old. What is, like, why don't you all know how to do this? Everybody doesn't get taught that way. So it was really nice for them to be able to teach us how to be able to create structure in that way. So.
And I just want to give one quick shout out to bologna, because you all mentioned it in the last episode, and now you mentioned it again. And it made me regret that I don't still eat it. I can't eat it now, but I loved it when it curled and got crispy and put cheese on it.
Absolutely. It was delicious. I love it. Couldn't eat it, can't eat it now. But it was delicious as a child.
I prepared for today's session by preparing my lunch in advance, because last time I was so hungry after our discussion. And so today I just finished turning the pot down. I made like a vegetable stew. And so I'm ready now to eat after talking about food. Yeah.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah, I got cabbage and I got some eggplant and some other vegetables the other day. And I hadn't done anything with them. So I decided, you know what, before I get on here, I'm gonna make myself something to eat before so I won't be hungry and not have any food ready.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah.
I wish I
Can I
had
throw
that.
out something that I made the other day and had to do an encore the next day for you all?
Sure.
Some plantain wontons.
Ooh.
Ooh, wait. When you so really quickly you slice the plantain, so of course you'll have the little pieces, season it up with whatever seasonings you want, of course with some garlic powder in there, a little bit of salt, black pepper and stuff, and whatever else you want to put. Lay it on the wonton, fold it over, and if you're not quite sure, YouTube has how to fold a wonton, how to roll an egg roll, all of that. And put it in your oil, just lay them out, they're small. When you bite into it, the soft, and use a sweeter, the ripe plantain, the plantain just oozes into your mouth from the wonton.
Oh, nice.
That's my gift to you today.
Now I gotta go get some.
I love a good plantain.
They may not have any wontons around though.
And
Well, they have like rice
the
paper.
plant-based wonton. Here anyway, I don't know.
Yeah,
Wow.
in Portugal they might not have it. But you can fry up the plantain just the same.
Absolutely. Because the extra that's left over, I just put it in the pan and let it decorate the rest of the.
That sounds good.
It is.
All right. All right, ladies, it's 5 minutes after the hour. So we've come to the end of our session today. Thank you so much. It's so nice to be able to hear all of your food memories and talk to us about your recipes. I think this is really important for us to be able to remember and write down and share it so that we can just sort of see, no matter where we are, I think in the world, there's always some sort of a tie in with how people eat food, how they share food with others, and some of the food memories that we have, no matter what generation you come from. It's nice to be able to see those similarities wherever we are. So
Yeah.
thank you so much. For people who are watching the replay, if you want to join us live, you're more than welcome to. Just go to the link in the excuse me, in the description, and you can put in your name and your email, and you'll be able to get the updates on when we meet. We meet every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Eastern, New York time. So thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
I will see you all
Thank you
next
too.
Wednesday.
All right.
Yes,
Take care.
Have a
ma'am.
great day.
Enjoy. All right.
Bye.